Today, as you read, but Joan Simon is here to share with us some information about our digital footprint and things we might want to be thinking about to be cautious out in that world. Based on some of the stories she told about their presentation last night, we may not want to hear it all. But I think we're going to learn something. So, Joan.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for having us today. Erica Kieser, who's the librarian at Malone, was going to come with. She was not able to make that work in her schedule, so I'm here by myself. Her and I presented last night in a community conversations about being digital citizens. So, but I wanted to first thank Kiwanis very, very much for your support of our reading program at the middle school. We use a system called AR as just part of the way to build the reading culture at the middle school. And the way it works is you read a book, you take a little quiz when you're finished with the book, and the points are a way for us to kind of track who's reading, how much kids are reading, and we are able to provide rewards with that. And so what we do with our the donation that we get from Kiwanis is at our every quarter we have a reward party, and we have a little reward called the Kiwanis Library Award. And we recognize two students, always one of the students in each class we recognize for how much they've read, and then we always recognize a most valuable reader who maybe they had no points and now have read a couple books, or they've been working really hard or been very helpful in the library. And then we are able to give them a little Dairy Queen gift certificate. And then in the spring we do a reward party for all of the students who have read more than 100 points. And so your donation allows us to do that. So I'm very, very thankful for your support in that way. So I just wanted to start by saying thank you. And I thought before we talked about our digital citizenship that I would just tell you guys a little bit about what's going on in our libraries right now. And that's why I have my phone. I'm not trying to be rude, but Erica sent me a little note. At the Malone and Intermediate School this year, they're really, really emphasizing literacy and writing. And they have started a club called the Literacy Club, and it's before school. We have high school students that go over and sit with kids who are interested in reading and writing, and they are encouraged to write their own books. So I think she's got 2 books published, and it's been a really nice program to start. The elementary school is also working together to read over 200,000 minutes. So they're right in the middle of that book challenge. So a lot of programs alive and well at the middle school and the Malone Elementary. At the intermediate school. At the middle school, we have some exciting things going on there too. I mentioned AR. We keep track of the points. We have a young student named Matthew. He has 996.2 AR points. To put that in perspective, that means he's read 60 books this year and gotten the points to go along with those books. So he's set to be our principal for the day. That's their big reward, and they hang out with Mr. Eigel to get to make announcements. And last year, Clint Sizemore was our principal of the day, and he was super excited to call his sister to the office. So it's just kind of a fun, low-expense way to reward them. We have 35 students right now with over 100 points, and we have checked out at the middle school library 4,875 books this year. So that's about 15 books per student. So if you're worried that the kids aren't reading, they're reading. And at the high school, my big news with the high school is kind of going on circulation statistics. We've checked out 2,300 books. Quite a bit less than the middle school, but the good news here is we are working really hard on some literacy initiatives at the high school, and that number is up by about 800 books from last year. And people will say, well, are you sure they're reading them? They're just checking them out. I'm sure they're reading them. We are just scrambling to keep up with next books in the series, and the discussions that we're having and the way the kids are talking. The way we've been really focusing on this is book talks. So the kids come down, we give a little summary of the book, and I've got kids coming down and saying, the sophomores haven't had a book talk in a while, and I'm like, well, you gotta talk to your teacher about that. Just have her call me, and sure enough, I'll get a call. So the kids are really, that culture of reading is really strong at both schools. I wanted to talk about it at the middle school real quick too. We just finished Battle of the Books. And we kicked it off by inviting this author, Jeff Herbach, to come and talk at the school. the middle school kids fell in love with this guy. I kind of felt sorry for him. They were hugging him, they wanted his autograph. It was kind of cute. He's from Minnesota, and what's cool about this book is he talks about being on different AAU teams. So these kids, he talks about the Heat, he talks about Playmakers, teams that they have played on. When I read it, I'm like, oh, we've been in that gym. So they really thought this was a cool one, and we used it to kick off Battle of the Books. We then took it a little bit further and did State Battle of the Books, and just a fun story about that, I chose to, the state list comes from WITA, which is an organization at the state level, and we can kind of pick which books we want, but I left Murder on the Orient Express on the list. And we had about, it clearly was not everyone's favorite, but there were about 5 or 8 kids who loved it. And I don't know if you've ever read it. It's a very, very challenging book to read. And I had one little girl say, well, I read it with my phone. There's a lot of French phrases. So then she would look up the French on her phone. We have a little character in 7th grade who's kind of a stinker, and one day he was in the hall, and I'm like, what happened? And he's like, well, but he was reading this. And I said, do you like it? Kind of trying to see, is he reading it? And he's like, I love it. I really think so-and-so did it. And I said, come and talk to me when you're done. And I don't want to spoil the end of the story for you guys, but do you know, everybody know who does it at the end? Okay, I won't spoil it. He comes flying up the stairs, he's like, oh my gosh. He clearly had read the book. So it's kind of cool. So then, while we're going through the state battle, a teacher from another school in Wisconsin, because we're taking this quiz against schools all across Wisconsin, she emailed me complaining. This book is too challenging. It should never have been on a middle school list. Really upset about it. So I try not to get involved, but I did respond saying we had several kids that claimed this was their favorite book. And so it's a classic. It was written in the 30s. It's, so we have some kids really reading up and above and beyond just your simple YA books. So kind of proud of that fact. So having kept you up to date on all the stuff going on at the schools, Eric and I are both working really hard on creating digital citizenship curriculum. So digital citizenship really is the new citizenship. Think about your own life. It is impossible to not be in the digital world at some point during your work or school or social day. And so we really do have to address some things with kids to make sure that they know how to live in that world. The average students, like tweens, spend about 6 hours a day online. The average teen spends about 9 hours online. Don't get too mad at them because the average adult spends 9.22, 9 hours and 22 minutes a day online. By the time you count in your work and your fun and keeping track of your family and things like that. So it is definitely a fact of our life. We usually start off with talking to them about their digital footprint. And what we talk to them about is the fact that everything you put online is searchable, traceable, and doesn't really go away. So you have to really, really think about what you're putting out there with your digital footprint. And we used to mostly just talk to them about not having a negative digital footprint, but now we're really focusing on building a positive digital footprint. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I share a couple stories with the kids, and I'm going to pick on Cerna House here a little bit. I don't know if you guys know, but Katie is my sister, Allie's my niece. It's kind of a family thing. Ron's my brother. So it isn't always what you of course, if you put those horrible pictures online or, pictures of you imbibing too much or whatever, of course we know to avoid those pictures. But sometimes with digital footprint, we're talking about really simple things you want to think of. And last summer, my son and my daughter's boyfriend were both employed by Cerna House. And another one of their employees knows my daughter from when she worked at the daycare. And he says to my son, Nick, how's Olivia? Oh, she's good. Yeah, she's still dating that creep? And Nick's like, yeah? And he kind of thought he was joking because they just hired him. And he's like, man, honestly, I always thought she could do better. The guy is such a loser. And Nick's like, he's sitting right here, her boyfriend. And he's like, Mason, she dates Mason. He's like, our Mason? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, dude, you look like a jerk online. And it wasn't anything outright that Mason was putting on, but you guys that know him, he's kind of a tough guy. He's in the military, so his hair's out, he has a big tattoo. A lot of the pictures after graduation, no shirt. He wasn't doing anything wrong in any of the pictures. But the image he was projecting really didn't match him. I think it's fair to say you guys liked him at Cerna House, would hire him. And the guy that was talking said, honestly, I don't know if I would have hired you if all I went off was your Facebook page. So he came home and he's like, Olivia, I think we should clean up my Facebook page. And I have shared that story with kids and they go, that's not fair. And I'm like, it's not about being fair. If you have five guys that just applied for your job, they're all pretty equal. You need to throw a couple out. If you check and employers do check your Facebook page, and they say, easy to let that one go. So it's just, you have to be careful about what you post, what you say online, what you're doing online at all times. So what we suggest with them, and for fun, I printed these out if anybody wants a copy, but an online reputation checklist. With older kids, we say search your name online. If things come up that you don't like, make sure you delete that. Let's say you created a website, a few years ago, you thought you'd play around with that, and now you're like, oh, I don't want that on there. Make sure you're deleting anything that's no longer pertinent. If pictures come up that maybe someone else posted of you, and you don't want that on there. There are ways to get all of that content offline. The other thing, it's a really good idea to check privacy settings. And there's a new training series. It's kind of just a video. It does take a half an hour that the state of Wisconsin just put out, and we've got it linked to our our district webpage. And on there they have, and I printed some of these out, but they have absolutely step-by-step ways to go to your Facebook account, your Twitter account, Snapchat, YouTube, and set those privacy settings in your favor so that you're keeping yourself safe online. And I printed a few off if anybody wants them. They look much better if you just click on that little presentation that's shared on the school district website. Another thing we talk to the kids about a lot, and I have some printed over there, is to think before you post. And actually, I'm just going to grab it because it's kind of cute. But is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? Do you really need to put it online? To just really start, even though it's nothing bad or inappropriate, does it really need to be on there? Just really think about every single thing you post before you post it. And then to constantly be working on a positive footprint. Another idea that's kind of new is netiquette. So making sure that you use proper etiquette when you come to a situation like this. Netiquette is being respectful of others online. And it's things like, respect privacy of others. Don't share personal information. Don't, write this whole long paragraph that really means nothing. You're kind of wasting people's time with that. So even just really talking about how to be careful about what you're posting online so you're being respectful of other people's time and their feelings about, and things like that online. There's a really good video that goes with this, but I decided to go non-tech today to talk to you guys. It's just kind of just a lot of work sometimes to get all that set up. But so thinking about netiquette is really, really important. The other thing is we talk to them about privacy settings and passwords. And there's another little handout. It says for third graders on there, but you know what? It's super handy. So I'm not trying to insinuate, but it's just so nice. And it talks about using passphrases instead of passwords. And the idea is you think up a little phrase. There's no way I'm kissing a frog. You would pick a phrase that means something to you, but then you take the first letter of each word, you add some symbols and some numbers that are meaningful. So you're creating a passphrase and not just a password to make all of your accounts more private and inaccessible to other people. So that's another thing that we're working on with the kids. And then cyberbullying, all of those kinds of things. There's so much to talk about there. We have excellent, excellent resources on the school district website page. I'm not going to go into a lot of that. We kind of constantly are talking, especially with the middle school kids, about all of those issues. And focusing our talk not just on don't do it. I know you guys have heard of sexting and things like that, but trying to talk to them about what do you do if someone's requesting something like that? How do you, trying to give them the language and the way to respond in a way that, no, I don't have to do that, and giving them those tools so they now know how to not become involved in it. Those are some of the things we're focusing on with that. And then we spend a lot of time in evaluating websites. I guess you could call it fake news, the whole fake news idea. That's so important with the kids doing research and writing papers and things. So we keep it very simple. Erica, BJ, and I, so it's K-12, we talk about the 5 W's of website evaluation. Basically, before you share anything, print anything, respond to things, make sure you know who wrote it. Are they an expert? Is there a biography included that lets you know that they are an expert? Can you find out more about this person? What is the author saying is the purpose of this site? When was it created? Has it been updated? Where did they get their information? See if you can track that back. Are they trying to get you to think one way or another? So just having them critically think about information that they see online before they share it, post it, use it as a academic source. I think it's working. I was working with a group of 8th graders this week, and BadgerLink, I did put some information on that. You all can access BadgerLink with your library card. It's a phenomenal database of information that the state provides, and we use it very, very heavily at school. But I was reintroducing it to some 8th graders, and one of them raises his hand and he goes, now, how did he phrase it? Is the information on this site reliable, and does it come from a credible source? And I was like, yes, it does. You can feel free to use anything on there. So they're starting to know the words and the things to ask. So I think our efforts are starting to take effect a little bit with all of that. So that's basically it, our update, and that's a very, very brief summary of the kinds of things we're doing with the kids to help keep them safe online. So
I wish you could teach older people this because I'll see especially out on Facebook, I think, where you see like this police department will post something, and then all of a sudden there's this barrage of negativity that's going on out there, and you're trying to figure out why are people so mean.
the
frustrating.
Yeah, it gives, so there's this whole thing that talks about the fact that because I can type it, I can say it to you without looking you in the eye and confronting you face. You wouldn't drive up to the police department and be like, but you feel like you can do it online because there's some anonymity there or whatever. They don't, I think that's why people just feel like they're more free to do those things, but you have to think about, is that right? Should you be doing that? But yeah.
It's horrible.
So yeah.
Did you have quite a few come last night?
We did not. We had about 10 people maybe, right?
Yeah.
10 you think last night?
I didn't come because I knew I
10, we're going with 10.
I think it's a really good program, but you're right, more adults should come and get more information.
Yeah, the speaker after Eric and I last night was phenomenal. I mean, it was really good information. Kind of sobering, but good. So.
What were some of the highlights then from last night?
And the speaker after you all.
He talked about so many things.
Who was it?
Tom Prohopchik, with First National
Identity theft. He talked a lot about the passwords. He kind of had a little bit of the same.
Like with frequency.
Using different passwords for different accounts.
Yeah.
So if one's compromised, so it's like if you have a Best Buy, you might use a BB from Best, or the BB from Best Buy or something like that too. So each password is something that you can remember, but it's still slightly different too.
We had a program that John used to do something kind of like that.
It was Tom that came in, yeah.
Oh, yeah, or was it Tom that
Yeah.
came too? Yeah, we had that. And it's
He
very
talked about a
helpful.
lot of different scams. He called them fraudsters, and just how they conduct some of these scams, and I think they had a customer that got into serious trouble because someone stole their laptop out of their car at work or something like that here in the city. So really just be mindful and careful of your laptop, your phone. One of his points was take care of your purse. you know, because someone walks off with your purse and they're immediately, he talked about Walmart or, you know, big stores like that where they grab a purse right out of a cart and they're buying things immediately. He did talk a little bit about what to do if it happens to you, change your passwords right away.
I thought the free Wi-Fi was interesting.
That
Like
was-
when you're at a hotel or you're
Yeah.
at a store and you pick up on their Wi-Fi, that somebody else can be getting all your
Marrying you.
personal information if they're connected to that as well.
Yeah.
Which
So
I-
it's a hotel, I could connect to that personal Wi-Fi, send a personal Wi-Fi out through mine.
Yeah.
That is the same, almost the same name. And so Joan, there was actually a video about that the reporter sat down, she connected to the Wi-Fi. And the guy's like, okay, and within like 5 seconds, he goes, I have your password, I have your account information, I have this. It was like, how quickly they can get all that information out of you. They can control your camera on the phone, they can control all access to it too.
Yeah, even a guy that heard voices on his baby monitor and went in the room and there was a guy talking on the baby monitor and he could see the baby because there was a camera, the camera and just,
In the
yeah.
open networks.
In the open
And when
networks.
he told that story, he talked about updating, so you think about updating your computer a lot, but he said when you get updates on your phone, and even like the baby monitor, he said, and your router in your house, he said all of those things can be updated and you should always update because if there's little glitches in the systems and stuff, like Apple just had with their, FaceTime. So if you're ignoring those updates, then some of those glitches that have been caught are not being taken care of and reset,
They're
things
not
like that.
patches, all the patches.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's a lot out there, but
I think this digital footprint thing is a great thing to teach in the schools. I'm glad it's happening. Hopefully they'll do better than we did.
Well, they have more to teach. Yeah.
Thank you.
thank you for